Hey guys, my name is Iasmina and welcome back to my channel. So, some time ago I had an idea. I have made a video at some point about how to choose a title for your book, and in that video, I'll link it up here and down in the description, but in that video I mentioned that you cannot copyright a title. Titles can be shared across all media, across all books, so there are a lot of books with the same title. So, in a moment of brilliance, I thought, what if I made a series about reading books that have the same title and see what the difference is? I'm super curious how authors who somehow ended up choosing the same title, how different their books might be to each other. I'm just really curious. This is an experiment. I will take you along the way. It will be a series of videos, and this video is the first in the series, and for this video, the title I have chosen is Stardust. Now, there are actually a lot of books called Stardust. I really want to read a book called Stardust. This is Stardust by Neil Gaiman. This has been on my TBR for a long time. I really like Neil Gaiman and I want to read more of his books. And so I thought, what better opportunity than making this video? So the other Stardust titled book that I chose is called Stardust by Carla Stewart, and from the cover, I would say it's maybe a romance novel. I literally have no idea, but who knows? It might end up being a really good read, and this is something that I might not otherwise pick out and read. For this video, I've only chosen 2 books, although like I said, there are actually quite a lot more books called Stardust, but if you like this video, and maybe I can read even more books called Stardust, but for the most part, my idea is to keep going with different titles and find other pairs of books sharing the same title. So, without further ado, let's get into the reading vlog of me reading 2 books called Stardust. Okay, so I am 46% into Stardust, not the Neil Gaiman one, the other one. And I'm very confused. I honestly didn't know what to expect with this book. I'm still a bit unsure about this genre. I think I would call it a Christian historical fiction. I don't know how else to describe this. And honestly, I was more expecting this to be a romance. It's not. It's more like general fiction and definitely historical fiction. So this takes place in the south of North America in Texas in the 1950s. And so we get a really interesting angle of the racial tensions going on in that part of the world at that time, as well as the polio outbreak. And I think those 2 layers are actually really, really interesting. But we follow our main character, who is this lady in her early 20s whose husband just died. She's now left with 2 kids and no job, no money, and no future. And so she is trying to figure out what to do with the rest of her life, right? And she is given from the heavens, she is left this highway hotel called Stardust. And now it's up to her to fix it up and, turn it into a business. This is nothing that I would ever pick up by myself. If it wasn't for this challenge, I would never read something like this. And I can't really say that I'm enjoying it, but I am intrigued and I want to know what happens next and how this lady deals with everything and what other misfortune befalls her, because honestly I feel bad for her. Like, so much stuff has just been thrown in her way. I mean, this is definitely an interesting challenge because I get to read books that I would never otherwise read. Also, if the fact that it's set in Texas isn't a giveaway of the tone of this book, then this is one of the quotes that made me laugh. Yep, it gets worse. This poor lady cannot catch a break. I feel so sorry for her. Just more and more horrible things are just happening to her. Okay, now suddenly halfway through it turned into the romance that I thought it would be in the beginning. I am so confused about this book.
It is done.
So that was a ride. I finished Stardust by Carla Stewart. Boy, this book. Poor lady. This poor lady, seriously. Like I said before, this is nothing that I would ever pick up on my own if not for this challenge. But I have to say, it wasn't bad. Like, it was good. For what it was good. the plot moved so fast, and oh my, it was like blow after blow after blow to this poor lady. So much misfortune just came her way, but she dealt with it like a champ, honestly. The author always cut the chapter right before something big happened, so you felt like you had to continue reading to find out what happens next, so that was really well done in my opinion. Nothing made me want to DNF it or anything like that. I didn't hate any of the characters. The main character, honestly, I respected her. Like, she took everything, like I said, she took everything that came her way with her head held up high, and she took care of it. But it was so much drama all of the time. You know, not my thing at all. But honestly, all in all, I think I would give it like 2.5 out of 5 stars. It was okay. I'm surprised, to be honest, that I didn't hate it. It was fine. Not my cup of tea, not my cup of sweet iced tea. It also made me crave some sweet tea, not gonna lie. There were so many sweet teas being served in this book. So that was that. And now, moving on to Stardust by Neil Gaiman, which is the book that I wanted to read for this video anyway. Like, this is a book I actually want to read because I've loved everything that I read from Neil Gaiman before, and this is supposed to be, as far as I know, it's supposed to be more like a fairy tale-esque fantasy. So let's see what this Stardust is all about, and if I like it more than the previous Stardust. Yeah, this is already very, very different, and I already like it a lot. It definitely has that fairy tale-esque vibe. It's definitely an adult book though. Like, this book starts off quite strongly, I would say. Yeah, very good. I'm looking forward to continuing on with this. Okay, so I'm about 212 pages in. I only have about 50 pages left of this. And yeah, this is really, really great. The humor in this is so well done. Neil Gaiman is so good. I really need to read more of his books. So I think I'm gonna go on a Neil Gaiman binge, honestly, after this. So this is a fantasy fairy tale. It's almost a parody. It's written with that sort of self-aware, almost ridiculous humor. And it's almost like a parody of fairy tales, but a parody that isn't obnoxious, if that makes any sense. I feel like a lot of the times when you set out to make a parody of something, it just becomes annoying and it becomes sort of over the top, but in a bad way. I don't know how to explain it, but I think this is done really, really well. Like, it has all those ridiculous elements thrown in there. Like, this has so many elements of sort of classic fairy tale folklore just thrown into it, and all of it has that sort of layer of humor behind it, but it still manages to be a story in of itself with characters that you care for and a plot that you actually care about following. So in that sense, it's a parody that is a story in of itself, and it works really well as a story, but it has that layer of, yeah, this is making fun of itself and of fairy tales in general, but it's great. I'm having a whale of a time. I can't wait to finish these last 50 pages and let you know my full thoughts after I finished the whole thing. Have I mentioned how funny this cover is to me? I think it's beautiful, but I think this camera can capture it better. Look at her face. Look at her eyes. And in general, this cover art is amazing. But look at her eyes. Her eyes are like offset. Like, one is higher than the other. And I just think that's really funny. So I finished it. I'm going to film an outro talking about both books, but just a few more thoughts on Neil Gaiman's Stardust now that I finished it. I realize I haven't actually told you guys what the story is about. It's a fairy tale for adults, and we basically follow this young boy who makes a promise to a young lady that he's very infatuated with because he really wants her kiss. And she says that in order for that to happen, he has to retrieve the fallen star that fell in the sky as they both were talking. And so this man takes those words to heart and he goes into fairyland to retrieve the fallen star. Adventure ensues from there. I'm obviously not going to spoil what happens because I think you should read this book because it's fantastic. My opinion obviously hasn't changed after I finished it. I still really, really like it. I think I would give this maybe a 4 out of 5 stars, maybe a 4.5. It was really, really good. And like I said, I really want to read more Neil Gaiman. I have read Neverwhere by him before, and I've read Sandman, at least the first book, also the Graveyard book, but there's still plenty of books of his I haven't read. So I really just want to read everything he's written now. So I'm definitely going to do that. But yes, I'm just gonna gather my thoughts and then film a sort of wrap up of these two books next. Okay, so I finished reading two books, two very, very different books called Stardust. So overall, I'm really happy about this idea. And I definitely want to continue reading pairs of books with the same title. I feel like I can get introduced to a lot of books that I would never otherwise pick up. However, I do feel like at least one of them should be something I am interested in. You know, it should be something that's already on my TBR, it's something I already want to read, or it's in a genre that I usually like, because then I get to read something that I already want to read, and then something that's completely new and could be a surprise. I could either love it or hate it or somewhere in between, but I just think it might be interesting. So yeah, I'm definitely going to continue on with this, and I think it's a really nice experiment. But let me know what you thought of this video idea and what you thought of the whole format. Have you ever accidentally or on purpose read books with the same title, and what were the differences between them? In my case, obviously, two very completely different genres, a historical Christian fiction and a fantasy fairy tale. Two very different worlds, but they were both good in their own right. Even though the Christian historical fiction is not something I would ever read again, it was still fine and enjoyable enough for what it was, and it definitely opened my eyes to some things. Like, I haven't really read any books about polio, and obviously this is 2021, we are still in a semi-lockdown here in Denmark because of a different virus outbreak that I'm sure we are all very familiar with, so it's not like the perfect time to read something like that. Still, very interesting. And then, of course, Stardust by Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman is a fantastic author, and I don't really have more to say on that. And it was a fantastic book. I would totally recommend the Stardust by Neil Gaiman one, of course. And I mean, if you're into Christian historical fiction, then I would honestly also recommend the other Stardust. That might just be your cup of sweet tea, even though it wasn't mine. So do let me know if you have any suggestions for this challenge. I have a list myself, but if you are aware of other books with the same title, hopefully ones that are in different genres, do let me know in the comment section below and I can add more to this list. And yeah, I can make more videos like this because honestly for me this was really fun. So I hope this was enjoyable for you guys as well, because I would love to keep making more. But that was it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day and I'll see you next time with a new video. Bye.